My name's Elena, and I never thought my life would turn into such a roller coaster. I grew up in a regular family, nothing fancy. After college, I became a primary school teacher. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved working with kids. My world flipped upside down when I met Jason. God, he was handsome, tall, dark hair, eyes you could drown in. And rich. Like, crazy rich. His parents owned some big company, and he was their golden boy. We hit it off right away. Jason said he loved how down-to-earth I was. I thought it was sweet then. Looking back, I should have seen the red flag. Our whirlwind romance shocked everyone, especially his parents. They hated me from day one. I still remember the first time I met them. So, Elena, Jason's mom said, eyeing me like I was something stuck to her shoe. What did you say your father does? He's a plumber, ma'am, I replied. The look on her face, you'd think I'd said he was a professional dumpster diver. Jason's dad wasn't any better. Teaching, huh? Not exactly a lucrative career, is it? But Jason stood by me. Mom, Dad, I love Elena. Deal with it, he said. We got married despite their objections. I moved into Jason's luxury apartment, feeling like Cinderella. Everything was perfect. I got pregnant pretty quick, and soon our son Michael was born. Jason's parents might have hated me, but they adored Michael. Maybe they thought he'd grow up to be more like them than me. Life settled into a routine. Jason worked as a financial director at his dad's company. I kept teaching and took care of our home. It wasn't always easy, juggling work and a baby, but I managed. One night, as I was putting Michael to bed, Jason came home late again. Another long day? I asked. He grunted, loosening his tie. You wouldn't understand, Elena. It's complicated stuff. I tried to ignore the sting of his words. Well, Michael missed you. He wanted you to read him a bedtime story. Jason sighed. I'm tired, Elena. Can't you do it? As I watched him walk away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between us. But I pushed those thoughts aside. We were happy, right? We had to be. This was the life I'd dreamed of. As time went on, I couldn't ignore the growing distance between Jason and me. He was staying later at work, having dinners out, and becoming more distant. I tried to convince myself it was just work stress, but deep down, I knew something was off. The breaking point came when I found out about the corporate party. I was folding laundry when my mother-in-law called. Elena, she said, her voice dripping with disdain, I hope you're not planning to wear that horrid green dress to the party tonight. I froze. What party? There was a pause. The company's annual gala. Surely Jason told you? My heart sank. He must have forgotten, I mumbled. Well, she sniffed, perhaps it's for the best. These events require a certain sophistication. Goodness knows you struggle enough with the simple duties of being a financial director's wife. I hung up, my cheeks burning with humiliation. When Jason got home, I confronted him. Why didn't you tell me about the party? I demanded. He sighed, loosening his tie. Look, Elena, these events, they're not really your scene. You're just too. He paused, searching for the right word. Simple? I supplied, my voice bitter. He shrugged. You said it, not me. That night, as Jason left for the party in his tuxedo, I sat alone in our huge apartment, feeling more out of place than ever. Weeks passed, and Jason grew more distant. I threw myself into taking care of Michael and my teaching job, trying to ignore the growing pit in my stomach. One day, while cleaning Jason's home office, I noticed his laptop was open. Curiosity got the better of me, and I started browsing. What I found shattered my world. There, in black and white, was an email chain between Jason and someone named Vanessa. As I read, my hands shaking, I realized she was more than just a coworker. God, you were amazing last night, one email read. Elena doesn't even compare. Of course not, darling, Vanessa had replied. She's just a simple little teacher. How could she possibly satisfy someone like you? They mocked me mercilessly, calling me a klutz and a fool. I learned that Jason had been buying Vanessa expensive gifts I'd never received. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen, tears streaming down my face. When I heard Jason's key in the lock, I quickly closed the laptop and wiped my eyes. He strolled in, reeking of expensive cologne. "Hey," he said, barely glancing at me. I swallowed hard. "How was work?" "Fine," he muttered, heading for the shower. The next morning, I woke up early, my mind racing with what I'd discovered. Jason stumbled in around dawn, looking disheveled and smelling of alcohol. I pretended to be asleep as he collapsed onto the bed. When he finally woke up, I was ready. I'd copied the incriminating emails onto a USB drive, which I now held in my trembling hand. "Jason," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "we need to talk." He groaned, rubbing his eyes. "What is it, Elena?" "I've got a killer headache." I plugged the USB into our TV and pulled up the emails. "Care to explain this?" Jason's eyes widened as he recognized the correspondence. Then, to my shock, he smirked. Well, he drawled. "Looks like the simple little teacher did some snooping." "How could you?" I choked out, tears threatening to spill. "I'm your wife, the mother of your child." He stood up, towering over me. "And that's exactly the problem, Elena. You're a wife and a mother. But Vanessa? She's exciting, sophisticated. She satisfies me in ways you never could." I felt like I'd been slapped. "So what now? Are you leaving me for her?" Jason laughed, a cold, cruel sound that made me flinch. "Leave you? Why would I do that?" "No, Elena, I'm going to keep seeing Vanessa. And you're going to put up with it." "Like hell I will," I spat, finding a surge of anger I didn't know I had. "You will," he said calmly. "Because without me, what do you have? A teacher's salary? A crappy apartment? Face it, Elena, you need me." I stared at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. "No, Jason," I said quietly. "I don't need you. Not anymore." I grabbed Michael, who was thankfully still asleep, and headed for the door. "Where do you think you're going?" Jason called after me. "To my parents," I shot back. "Don't try to stop me." As I drove away, Michael stirring in his car seat, I felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. I had no idea what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain: I was done being Jason's simple little teacher. I arrived at my parents' modest house, tears streaming down my face. My mom opened the door, took one look at me and Michael, and ushered us inside without a word. "Elena, sweetheart, what happened?" she asked, once we were settled in the living room. Through sobs, I told them everything: the emails, the confrontation, Jason's cruel words. My dad's face grew stormy as I spoke. "I'll kill him," he growled, starting to stand. "No, Dad," I said, grabbing his arm. "He's not worth it. I need to figure out what to do next." My mom hugged me tight. "You'll stay here, of course. We'll help you with Michael. And we'll get you a good lawyer." As I lay in my childhood bed that night, Michael sleeping peacefully beside me, I realized this was just the beginning of a long, difficult journey. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I was free. The following weeks were a blur of lawyer meetings and tearful nights. Jason, true to form, wasn't going down without a fight. He hired the best divorce attorney in the city and was determined to make my life hell. "He's trying to get full custody of Michael," my lawyer, a kind-faced woman named Sarah, told me one afternoon. "He's claiming you're an unfit mother." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What? How can he say that?" Sarah sighed, pushing her glasses up her nose. "He's alleging that you're unstable, that you've neglected Michael. It's all nonsense, of course, but we need to be prepared for a tough battle." And a tough battle it was. Jason threw everything he had at me. He claimed I was mentally unstable, that I'd cheated on him, that I was a danger to Michael. Each lie felt like a knife to my heart. The day of the custody hearing arrived. I sat in the courtroom, my hands shaking as Jason's lawyer painted me as a terrible mother. "Your Honor," he said, his voice dripping with false concern, "Mrs. Parker is clearly unfit to care for a child. She abandoned her marital home, taking the child with her without Mr. Parker's consent. She's unstable, prone to emotional outbursts." I wanted to scream, to tell the judge it was all lies. But Sarah had coached me well. I sat quietly, my face a mask of calm. When it was our turn, Sarah stood up. "Your Honor, my client is a dedicated mother and a respected teacher. Mr. Parker's claims are baseless and, frankly, malicious. We have character witnesses." The judge listened to both sides, his face impassive. When he finally spoke, I held my breath. "Having considered all the evidence," he said, "I find no reason to deny Mrs. Parker custody of Michael. Mr. Parker will have visitation rights and will pay alimony and child support." I let out a sob of relief. Jason's face twisted with fury, but I didn't care. I had one. Michael was staying with me. As we left the courthouse, Jason grabbed my arm. "This isn't over, Elena," he hissed. "I'll make you regret this." I yanked my arm away. "No, Jason. It is over. You lost. Deal with it." Walking away from him, head held high, I felt stronger than I had in years. But I knew this was just the beginning. Jason wasn't going to give up easily, and I needed to be prepared for whatever he might do next. Months passed, and life settled into a new rhythm. I threw myself into teaching, cherishing the moments with Michael, and slowly rebuilding my self-esteem. But Jason wasn't done with us yet. One sunny afternoon, as I was helping my mom prepare dinner, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Jason standing there, a stunning blonde woman hanging on his arm. "Elena," he said, his voice sickeningly sweet, "I've come to see Michael. This is Vanessa, my fiancée." I felt like I'd been sucker punched. "Fiancée?" I managed to choke out. Vanessa smirked, her eyes roving over our modest home. "Yes, Jason and I are getting married." "No, where's the little one?" "I'm dying to meet him." I wanted to slam the door in their faces, but I knew I had to be civil for Michael's sake. "Come in," I said through gritted teeth. As they entered, Vanessa wrinkled her nose. "My, what a quaint little kennel you have here," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. My parents, who had come to see what was going on, bristled at her words. "Now listen here, young lady," my dad started, but Jason cut him off. Now, he said condescendingly. "No need to get upset. We're all adults here, aren't we?" "Well, some of us more than others," he added, eyeing my parents with contempt. That was the last straw. "Get out," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Excuse me?" Jason said, feigning surprise. "You heard me," I replied, my anger building. "Get out of my parents' house. You can see Michael another time, when you learn some respect." Vanessa laughed, a high, grating sound. "Oh, honey, don't you get it? Jason doesn't need your permission. He has rights, you know." I stepped closer to her, my voice barely above a whisper. "And I had the right to kick you out of this kennel, as you so charmingly put it. Now leave, before I call the police." Jason's face darkened. "You'll regret this, Elena. I'll take Michael away from you, just you wait and see." That night, after putting Michael to bed, I sat with my parents in the living room, my head in my hands. "What am I going to do?" I asked, my voice trembling. "He's going to try to take Michael away, I just know it." My mom put her arm around me. "We won't let that happen, sweetheart. We'll fight him every step of the way." My dad nodded, his face set with determination. "I've got an idea," he said. "Remember Alex, your old friend from school? The one who became a private detective? I nodded, not sure where he was going with this. Well, he continued, maybe it's time we did some digging of our own. Find out what skeletons Jason and his new fiancée might have in their closets. I hesitated. It felt wrong, somehow, to stoop to Jason's level. But then I thought of Michael, of the threat to take him away, and I knew I had to do whatever it took to protect him. Okay, I said, taking a deep breath. Let's do it. Let's hire Alex. The next day, I called Alex. We hadn't spoken in years, but he agreed to meet me immediately when I explained the situation. We met at a small cafe, away from prying eyes. Elena, Alex said, giving me a warm hug. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I filled him in on everything, the affair, the divorce, Jason's threats. Alex listened intently, his brow furrowed. I'll take the case, he said finally. We'll find out what your ex and his new fiancée are really up to. Over the next few weeks, Alex worked tirelessly. I tried to focus on my life, teaching, caring for Michael, helping my parents, but I couldn't help checking my phone constantly for updates. Finally, Alex called me. Elena, you need to come to my office. Now. When I arrived, Alex's face was grim. I found some things, he said, and they're not pretty. He laid out a series of documents and photos. First, your ex's fiancée, Vanessa? She's not who she says she is. Her real name is Veronica Mills. She used to work as an escort. I gasped. Are you sure? Alex nodded. Positive, but that's not all. She's been involved in some serious corporate espionage. She's been leaking information from your in-law's company to their competitors. My head was spinning. Does Jason know? I don't think so, Alex replied. But there's more. Jason himself has been embezzling from the company. He's been siphoning off funds for years. I sat back, stunned. This was bigger than I could have imagined. What do I do with this information? I asked. Alex leaned forward. That's up to you, Elena. But if I were you, I'd use it to protect yourself and Michael. As I left Alex's office, my mind was racing. I had the power to destroy Jason and Vanessa, or Veronica. But was that really what I wanted? The next day, I received an unexpected call. It was my mother-in-law. Elena, she said, her voice cold, we're having a small gathering for my birthday next weekend. We'd like you and Michael to come. As I hung up the phone, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The information Alex had uncovered was burning a hole in my pocket. I knew that at this party, I'd have to decide whether to use it or not. I looked at a photo of Michael on my nightstand, his innocent smile beaming at me. Don't worry, sweetheart, I whispered. Mommy's going to make sure you're safe. With that thought, I began to plan. The party was just days away, and I needed to be prepared for anything. Jason and Vanessa wouldn't know what hit them. The day of my mother-in-law's birthday party arrived. I dressed Michael in his best clothes and put on a simple but elegant dress myself. As we drove to the luxurious house I once called home, I felt my stomach churning with nerves. The welcome we received was far from warm. My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed as she saw me. Elena, she said coolly. We invited you only because you're Michael's mother. Don't forget that. I nodded, swallowing my pride. I understand. Thank you for including us. The party was in full swing, the house filled with the chatter of high society. I stood in a corner, feeling out of place, while Michael played with his cousins. Suddenly, the room fell silent. Jason had entered, a stunning woman on his arm. My heart sank as I recognized Vanessa. Everyone, Jason announced, beaming. I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Vanessa. We're getting married next month. The room erupted in congratulations. My in-laws rushed forward, embracing Vanessa. Oh, darling, my mother-in-law cooed. We're so thrilled. You're exactly the kind of woman Jason needs. Such a wonderful education and pedigree. I saw her throw a pointed look in my direction. The implication was clear. Unlike me, Vanessa was worthy of their son. Something snapped inside me. I stood up, clutching the folder Alex had given me. Actually, I said loudly, I have something to say. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. This woman, I continued, my voice steady, is not who she claims to be. Her real name is Veronica Mills. She's using her cousin's identity. She has no education to speak of and used to work as an escort. Gasps echoed through the room. Vanessa's face went pale. I wasn't done. But that's not all. She's been leaking confidential information about your company to your competitors. My father-in-law's face turned purple. What? Is this true? And Jason, I added, turning to my ex-husband, has been embezzling from the company for years. Chaos erupted. Jason lunged at me, but was held back by other guests. You lying scum, he yelled. My father-in-law's voice boomed over the commotion. Enough, he turned to Vanessa. Get out of my house, now. I'll see you in court. As Vanessa fled, he rounded on Jason. You're fired. How dare you hire this woman without proper vetting? And stealing from your own family? You're a disgrace. In the midst of the uproar, my in-laws approached me. Elena, my father-in-law said, his voice gruff. We owe you an apology. You've saved our company. We were wrong about you. I nodded, feeling a mix of vindication and exhaustion. Thank you, but if you'll excuse me, I need to take my son home. As Michael and I left, I heard the continuing sounds of argument behind us. But for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The truth was out, and we could finally move forward. In the weeks following the dramatic revelation at my in-laws' party, life took on a whirlwind pace. The fallout was swift and severe. Vanessa, or rather, Veronica, was arrested for fraud and corporate espionage. The sight of her being led away in handcuffs was surreal, to say the least. Jason didn't fare much better. With his embezzlement exposed, he lost not only his job, but also his fancy apartment. The last I heard, he'd moved to another state, tail between his legs. He calls Michael occasionally, but the conversations are always short and awkward. To my surprise, my relationship with my in-laws took a complete 180. They were genuinely remorseful for how they'd treated me, and as a gesture of gratitude for saving their company, they gifted me a small apartment. It's the least we can do, Elena, my father-in-law said, handing me the keys. We were wrong about you, and we're sorry. The apartment wasn't large or luxurious, but it was ours. Michael and I moved in, ready to start our new life. I threw myself back into teaching, finding joy in the simplicity of my work. Our life settled into a peaceful rhythm, free from the drama and tension that had plagued us for so long. But the story doesn't end there. Remember Alex, my detective friend? Well, after all the dust settled, we started talking more frequently. He had been my rock throughout the whole ordeal, offering support and helping with the move. One day, as we were unpacking boxes in my new apartment, Alex paused, a framed photo in his hand. You know, Elena, he said, his voice soft, you deserve so much better than what Jason put you through. I looked up, meeting his warm brown eyes. Something shifted between us at that moment. We started spending more time together, and gradually, our friendship deepened into something more. Alex was everything Jason wasn't, kind, attentive, and he absolutely adored Michael. Our first date was nothing fancy, just a picnic in the park with our kids. Alex has a son, Tommy, who's a year younger than Michael. The boys hit it off immediately, chasing each other around the playground while Alex and I talked. I can't remember the last time I laughed this much, I told him as we watched the kids play. Alex smiled, taking my hand. You deserve to laugh, Elena. You deserve to be happy. As the weeks turned into months, Alex became a constant in our lives. He was there for Michael's first soccer game, cheering louder than anyone. He helped Michael with his science project, showing infinite patience as they built a model solar system. One night, as we sat on my small balcony after putting the boys to bed, Alex turned to me. "Elena," he said, his voice serious. "I want you to know. I'm in this for the long haul. You and Michael, you're not just some passing fancy for me. I love you both." Tears welled up in my eyes. "We love you too, Alex. You and Tommy, you've made our lives whole again." As we sat there, hand in hand, watching the stars, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. For the first time in years, I was truly, deeply happy. Life wasn't perfect. We still had challenges to face. But with Alex by my side, and our boys growing closer every day, I knew we could handle whatever came our way. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I couldn't help but smile. My story wasn't over, it was just beginning a new, beautiful chapter.